Hello and welcome back to another episode of Gabagool and 8. My name is Wes Dawson. Now, I just want to put this out there. I want to start a cult. Now, hear me out, okay? So I know on the offset you hear the word cult. If you're not talking about a film like Pulp Fiction or Bill and Ted, I know you're wondering, hey, what are you talking about? Kind of that scares us a bit. There's some negative connotations coming with that. Well, let me clear the air. Because I think I may have been misunderstood and misrepresented when I first brought up this idea. Now, you see, when I say I want to start a cult, no, I don't mean your typical cult, what you're thinking of. What I plan to do is to manipulate and exploit people when they're at their weakest for power and financial gain. Simple as that. It's an innocent endeavor, and I think I should be encouraged in such activities. Now, I should start off by mentioning I believe I may have been in a cult. No joke. No exaggeration, and not a blown up story for the purposes of this podcast. Actually, while discussing with a friend, it seemed that when I checked everything off the list, I was like, okay. So new members are welcomed without question, regardless of who they are, where they came from, or their backgrounds, doesn't matter. Then the indoctrination. You learn who to talk to, when to talk to them, how to behave, all these unwritten social laws and social cues that we must abide by in order to be part of this community. Identifiable clothing. A hierarchy of power within the community, a distortion of reality, discouragement from getting information from outside of the community, and all that to say I had an absolute blast. I evolved and grew as a person mentally, physically, spiritually. I wouldn't change a thing for the world. I think what I had to keep in mind was that A, it was a voluntary decision to be there, and B, don't be a little bitch. And another reason I think I'd be a great candidate to run a cult is that typically most cults are centered around an extremely charismatic and sociopathic narcissist. Now, honestly, I may not check off everything on the list, but 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Now, I'm not sure if I want my cult to be centered around religion, politics, a particular social movement. I think maybe a mix of all three may be the best option. This way, it won't get stale, it'll be able to evolve with the times. I'm really trying to debate my options here. And one noticeable difference is good music. None of this hippie crap banging on fucking bongos. No one can actually play any one instrument. They're just banging pots and pans and saying, no, it's my spiritual representation. Well, your spiritual representation sounds like audio dog crap. So honestly, we're going to get some distorted guitars in there. A nice solid bass line, 200 beats per minute. We're not messing around. Now, on the topic of bongos, honestly, this instrument, it's basically like the instrument of the vapid and shallow spiritualist. Like, who the fuck actually learns to play bongos? It's like saying, oh yeah, I studied the triangle in music school. Just as having a mohawk doesn't make you a punk, playing bongos and saying namaste doesn't give you some spiritual enlightenment. No, that would be exclusively through the use of hard drugs. So my friend that I had been discussing this idea with, he had said one main thing about a cult. He's like, there has to be a power structure. And he's like, and you have to have some form of repercussions for those who don't act accordingly. And I said, well, of course. I said, basically, it'll be a very free-based cult. You can kind of do what you want. We're open-ended. It's not too strict in that sense. Although, if you don't listen to me, I will abuse your children. And allow me to clarify. Physically, not sexually. Come on, I'm not a monster here, Jesus. Because he was saying, he's like, if you want to jump on this right now, you got your finger on the pulse, it seems white supremacist groups are the big thing online. He's like, that's who you should center around. And I was like, yes, although I do want to exploit them for financial gain, I don't want to support any kind of bullshit movement like that. I would like it not to leave some lasting negative impact on the world other than the dupes who were sort of fooled by me. I would rather have at my disposal an army of like incels or something like that. Now, if you're not familiar with the term incels, it refers to involuntary celibates, a self-proclaimed name for people saying, since society won't let me have sex, I choose not to have sex. Like, just by definition, you are a voluntary celibate, because if you're actively cutting off any possibility of engaging in sexual intercourse, that's not the world's fault. That's obviously your fucking fault. But anyway, I digress. This will be discussed at length in another episode. I always enjoy the idea of having this army of dedicated, loyal incels who would do anything at my beck and call while I am simultaneously enjoying a concubine of an incalculable amount of women. We're going to move on to good bad. So a good, cults that are rooted in religion. they're harder to persecute, they have this long-standing history, and basically they already have their arguments ready to go of how it's religious discrimination. The bad? Well, if 2020 has showed us anything, political cults are the way to go. Let's make cults great again. A good. The sexual freedom offered in many cults, the fact that the taboos of society, the taboos of sexuality are completely removed. You are truly a free man, woman, or whatever you identify as. The bad. If history has showed us anything, typically if you're enjoying your open sexuality in this particular cult, then that means that some other dude is enjoying his sexuality with your children. So yeah, we kind of want to avoid that at all costs. A good. Using the internet to recruit new members. You have great reach, great access. Basically, your members will find you. The bad, that people will have access to credible sources, peer-reviewed reports, real information. Wait, who am I kidding? A grainy screenshot is more than enough to call in a session of the court of public opinion and destroy someone's life, or to teach those stupid doctors what's what. So to help me on this next segment, I would like to welcome Mac the Wolfhound, as we are going to do a wow or woof of some of the most notable cult leaders. These men whose legacy have lasted through the annals of time and have truly set an example for those who want to unleash a destructive force upon this world in the guise of spiritual enlightenment. Jim Jones. Ooh, yeah, he does have that kind of Wayne Newton look to him. You got that right, Mac. Marshall Applewhite. Yeah. So that's a guy who led the Heaven's Gate cult. And yeah, he looks like he's going to lead you to a mass suicide. Like the first time I saw this guy, it was like either he's going to convince me to kill myself or he's putting a thumb up my ass. It's one or the other. Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh. Ooh, yes, Mac. You better show the Osho respect. Unfortunately, we are running out of time for this week's episode, and you listeners are running out of time to join my new movement. So upcoming next week, I will officially launch my community group. So I have this engaging, welcoming, very entertaining video of sorts that is a type of documentary series that I think will greatly benefit my own movement. And next week, we will have the Pornhub episode, when we ask the question, hey Pornhub, what the fuck did you do? All that and more next week on Gabagool and 8. My name is Wes Dawson. Thank you so much. Listen, like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. If you see someone who needs help, offer a hand, be a good person, be generous, and ask them to join my cult. Thank you. I'll see you next week.